All right, today we're diving into a story that is seriously chilling. It's a Hindi horror story called Mecho Bhoot, which means the fish ghost. But we're not just here to get spooked, right? We're gonna tear this thing apart, really deconstruct it, and see exactly what makes it so terrifying. It's all about how the story builds this feeling of absolute, inescapable dread. So, let's do it.
You know, the story just throws you right into the deep end. There's no slow build-up. A new family shows up on this awful, stormy night, and the very first thing they hear isn't welcome, it's this super cryptic warning from the caretaker, Bhuvan. Just that one line, it might not be right to go at this time. It immediately creates this massive clash, right? You've got the family with their modern city logic on one side, and on the other, this ancient local dread that they just can't even begin to wrap their heads around. And boom, that's the very first seed of fear getting planted.
Okay, so here's the game plan for how we're gonna break this down. We'll kick things off with that ominous welcome and see how the whole stage is set. Then, we'll get into the first really strange stuff in sowing seeds of dread. After that, we'll look at how the ghost starts to zero in on its victim in the ghost's seduction, which, as you can guess, leads to the horrifying climax in the inevitable corruption. And then we'll wrap it all up, put it all together in the anatomy of a haunting to really see what makes this scary story tick.
All right, first up, the ominous welcome. This is where the story is so clever. It lays this perfect trap using all the classic horror setups to make you feel uneasy right from the get-go.
So the story just starts piling on all the classic ingredients for a perfect horror storm. I mean, you've got the dark and stormy night, check, basically sealing them off from the rest of the world. You have an isolated house miles away from anybody who could possibly help, check. And then there's this river, which in folklore, is often a boundary between our world and, well, something else. And into this perfect pressure cooker, you drop a family who are complete outsiders. The last piece of the puzzle? Bhuvan, the caretaker, who you can just tell knows something awful that they don't. All of this is perfectly designed to make them and us reading along feel totally and completely vulnerable.
And this right here? This is the absolute core conflict of the story. On one side, you have the family, trying to find a logical reason for everything. Oh, that strange guy, he's just an odd man. That creepy warning? Just some village stories. But then on the other side, you've got Bhuvan. And his superstitions, they're not just stories, they're basically a survival guide for this place. The real horror starts to bubble up in that space between the family's disbelief and Bhuvan's terrifying, unwavering certainty.
Okay, on to part 2, sowing seeds of dread. So we've got the creepy atmosphere locked in. Now the story starts dropping in these little events that they just don't add up, and one by one, they start to dismantle the family's sense of logic and pull them into this really uncanny space.
So the first major crack in their reality is when they see Bhuvan's doppelganger, his double. As they're driving to the house, they clearly see a figure that looks exactly like him walking down a path that he specifically told them was impossible to use. This is so incredibly effective because it's not just one person seeing something weird. The whole family sees it. It's bizarre, it makes no logical sense, and it completely contradicts what the real Bhuvan just told them minutes before.
And then, when they actually confront him about it, his simple, almost confused denial, "Me? No, I didn't go that way at all." That's what tips this from just a weird sighting into something genuinely terrifying. The easy explanation is just gone. Poof. So, who or what was that thing they saw by the river? And the story doesn't just leave them with a creepy vision. No, it gives them cold, hard, muddy proof. They find footprints leading from the river straight to their front door. So, okay, logic says someone walked out of the water, simple enough. But then, Bhuvan drops the bombshell, the horrifying twist. The footprints are backwards. And in folklore, that is a classic, unmistakable sign of something unnatural. The threat isn't just a feeling anymore. It has literally left its mark on their doorstep.
And that brings us to part 3, the ghost's seduction. This is where things get personal. The vague, circling threat around the house, it now picks a target, the daughter, Sugandha. And it doesn't start with a jump scare or a scream. It starts with a strange, deceptive kind of beauty.
This is such a smart, classic horror move, and it's used so well here. The mecho bhoot doesn't show up looking like a monster. Its first appearance to Sugandha is as this beautiful, captivating girl by the river. That beauty is the trap you see. It's meant to lower her guard, to draw her in with curiosity instead of scaring her away.
The danger is completely hidden, which makes it so much more insidious. And then comes this totally bizarre first request, will you give me fish? I mean, what a weird, specific question. It just shatters that enchanting image. This is our first real clue about what this thing actually is and what it wants. It's a deeply unsettling, completely out-of-place moment that starts to hint at the true horror to come. From there, this story just masterfully builds the terror during Suganda's walk home, ramping it up step by step. First, it hits the senses, this foul, overpowering smell of rotting fish. Then it gets psychological, that deeply unnerving feeling of a shadow walking right beside her, even though there's no one there. Then it gets physical, a real threat, when a huge branch just snaps and crashes down right in front of her, blocking her way. And it all leads up to the absolute horror of that final, disembodied voice. And then, the voice finally speaks. And it is not a gentle request anymore. It's a cold, chilling demand coming right out of the darkness. Give me the fish. The fact that it's in a strange dialect makes it sound even more alien, more wrong. This is the moment the mask comes off. The threat is 100% real, and Suganda is just frozen in pure terror. And when she's too scared to respond, the voice shifts again. The tone becomes aggressive, angry, threatening. You won't give me the fish? The illusion of the beautiful girl is completely gone. The seduction is over. All that's left is this raw, vicious hunger, and the terror of that moment is just absolute. And that terror leads us directly to the climax in Part 4, the inevitable corruption. All the dread, all the weird visions and terrifying whispers, it has all been building to this. This is the payoff, where the psychological horror becomes physical, visceral, and something you will not forget. So the story makes us ask this really, really disturbing question. What does it actually look like when innocence isn't just destroyed, but completely corrupted? And the answer the story gives us is so much worse than just death.
And this is the answer. Suganda's mother finds her in the kitchen, just devouring a raw fish, her face and her clothes smeared with blood. And she says this line, "I was hungry, it fed me fish, now I will live with it." And that is the real horror. Suganda wasn't just attacked, she's been converted. Her own will is broken, and her very nature has been twisted by the entity's hunger. She's accepted it, and that is the devastating, horrifying end.
Okay, so let's try and pull all these pieces together in our final section, the anatomy of a haunting. What are the key tools, the key techniques that make Mecho Bhoot such a masterclass in building fear?
You know, when you really break it down, the story uses a very specific toolkit for creating terror. It kicks off by building an atmosphere of total isolation and vulnerability. Then it introduces the uncanny, these events like the doppelganger that your rational mind just can't explain. It uses a psychological lure, making the ghost beautiful at first to disarm its victim. Then it layers on sensory horror, that very specific smell of rot, the sound of that voice. And it all builds to the final, sickening gut punch of body horror, with that unforgettable image of Suganda's transformation.
And all this brings us to a final, kind of lingering question. Yeah, Mecho Bhoot is a story about one specific ghost, but it plugs into fears that are ancient and totally universal. So why? Why do these primal fears of the dark, of deep water, of things that just hunger in the shadows, why do they still have such a powerful hold on us? Maybe it's because they remind us that no matter how modern we get, no matter how rational we think we are, some hungers just can't be explained away.